The European football season may have been on hold for the last couple of months, but we've been busy here at Sportingbet trading you in-play betting throughout the globe 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now though, European football is back. The season is kicking off again. And with me today to look ahead to the resumption of the Premier League on Saturday is our head of media, occasional TalkSport and Reuters television contributor Russ Wiseman. How are you doing, Russ?
Great, Chris. As you mentioned there, it's been an interesting summer, but now football's back, and I can honestly say that Sportingbet were perfectly placed now. 24/7 football, more in-play opportunities than anywhere else in the business. I think it's going to be a fantastic season for punters, and certainly for punters with us at Sportingbet.
Absolutely. And also with us today, you might recognise his voice as a regular contributor to the Sportingbet podcast. His name is Nick Watts. How are you doing, Nick?
I'm very well, Chris. I can't wait for the season to get back underway, to be honest.
It's been a long summer, hasn't it?
It has been too long.
Anyway, let's cut to the chase, guys. The Premier League starts on Saturday. We've got to look at the outright betting first. We've got Manchester United 13-8, Chelsea 5-2, Man City 7-2, Arsenal at 10s, friendless Arsenal at 10s, Liverpool at 11-1, 50-1 bar. Russell, start with you. I remember at the end of last season on the podcast, you were very keen on Man City for this season. Are you sticking with that opinion?
From a personal point of view, Chris, I think City will win the league. 7-2 at the moment. We opened them initially 9-2. Good weight of money there. I think generally the big signings have made punters very aware of the Manchester City chance. I think 7-2 represents a very good value. However, most of the sentiment across the industry, across punters, pretty much all over Europe, has been that Manchester United are perfectly set to defend their crown. 2-1 initially with Sportingbet. We cut them to 7-4. However, after the Charity Shield win on Sunday, we're now into 13-8. So they're clear favourites. Chelsea in there at 5-2. Not for me. The two interesting ones from a betting point of view with Sportingbet at the moment, 10-1 Arsenal. They're the ones that our traders, the odds compilers there, want to be against. We want to be against Arsenal. That will be a big loser for Sportingbet, make no mistake about it. And the other one, Liverpool 11-1. Now, at the moment, they're the biggest loser in the book. It's not a position we're overly happy with. However, punters do seem to think that maybe the Reds on Merseyside can mount some sort of challenge today. They'll be looking to Suarez and obviously to Carroll to lead the line and do something for them, but they're in there at 11. So the big losers in the book at the moment, 10-1 Arsenal, 11-1 Liverpool. However, I've got a feeling the Manchester side will be celebrating this year, but it will be blue rather than red.
Interesting opinion there. Not many people in the office agree with him. But what about you, Nick? Russ likes Man City. Do you think the title may go to one of the more established order?
I really do think it's tough to look beyond United. You know, that performance of the weekend was so typically United, wasn't it? To be 2-0 down at half time and come back and win 3-2. And they really played some fantastic stuff. I think all the top teams, the fans certainly would have hoped that their manager would be as decisive in the transfer market as Sir Alex Ferguson's been. He went out, he did his business early, and the signings all seem to be working at the moment. And, obviously it's pre-season still, effectively the Community Shield, we can't take too much from it, but I think they're rightly strong favourites here. I agree with Russ. I think City will be there or thereabouts. I think that they could get second this year. I'm not a great believer in Chelsea, has to be said. I do think Arsenal are an enormous price at 10-1. I mean, it's the next 3 weeks that are absolutely critical for Arsene Wenger. Before the end of the transfer window, we could see a big shift in that price, I think. Just because if the right signings come in, Arsenal will be in pretty decent shape, and they weren't a million miles away last year. Things just went wrong at the end. I just think they're too big at 10-1.
Okay, well let's look at the other sides. At the top of the betting, if you look at the top four, Russ, really, we'll forget about the big three. Arsenal 8-11 to finish in the top four. Spurs 11, Spurs 3-1, Liverpool 11-10. Everton and Villa 14-1. Can you see Liverpool sneaking into the top four? Maybe Spurs again?
No, I absolutely can see Liverpool sneaking into the top four. I think 11-10 is a very fair price about them. Kenny Dalglish has clearly turned things around to some extent after what was a painful time in the early part of the last season, the first part of last season. I think Spurs are going to struggle. There seems to be a lot of unrest. There's plenty of rumours about Harry trying to shift players like Crouch, like Pavlyuchenko, Defoe and Lennon. They don't really seem to have added or even taken away from the squad. That's not a squad that can really do the business for me. However, I do think that the likes of Everton could struggle this year. I don't see an enormous amount of improvement from them. They've seemed to have kept hold of Phil Jagielka. I wouldn't be backing them at a big price to maybe come into the top four. The reality is, guys, I think we're going to see the main protagonists, the main contenders occupy those top slots. However, I do think it's the Gunners who could be dropping out of that top four, Nick, I'm afraid to say. And I don't see them, certainly in a match bet for myself, I think Liverpool will poke in front of them. 11-10 for me, Liverpool to certainly nip ahead of Arsenal 8-11 in that top four slot.
Well, Nick is a big Arsenal fan. Nick, Do you agree with Ross that this could be a very painful season for your Gunners?
Well, I agree that it's a straight shootout between Liverpool and Arsenal. I really don't think that Spurs have improved enough, and there's a bit of unrest there with the Modric situation and what have you. It's going to take something special for them to break into the top four again, I think. Everyone's talking about Liverpool, and they've obviously made a lot of these signings this year. They spent a lot of money, probably too much money, and I've still got a question mark, because to me, the likes of Jordan Henderson, Stuart Downing, would they get in the Arsenal team? I don't think they would, frankly. And on that basis, it's just about Arsenal's mental instability. If they can keep that in check, I think they're guaranteed for the top four. I wonder if 8 to 11 is a little bit too skinny for me to put some money on it. So I'm going to be horrendous and swerve this one, I'm afraid.
No value.
No value there for me.
No value for Nick. Let's look at the handicap market next. We've saw more bets in this market than ever before with regards to the lead up to the season. This market is growing in popularity, definitely. The money we've saw: Man City +6, Sunderland +32, Fulham +36, and Liverpool +12. Ross, can you pick out a couple of teams who might overachieve this year and perform well in the handicap market?
Well, I know you guys are going to be against me on this, and I really do like the Sportingbet handicap market. I think it does offer us a great opportunity as punters to maybe delve into the lower echelons of the league and maybe find one or two small gems. The team I like is a team that maybe you guys will be speaking about as relegation candidates, but I like Blackburn Rovers. I think they are receiving a whopping head start on that list of 38 points, which is the same as West Brom, which I really do think that Blackburn will come good this season. Big loss of Phil Jones, obviously, that's an admitted blow. However, I did see Blackburn play against Wolverhampton Wanderers in the final game of the season last year. They looked a super team. They've stuck with this manager, Steve King, which I think is a great testament to the owners there, that they will give this guy some endeavour. He's impressed me overall in the start of the season. I just think that people write them off too quickly. I think they're an opportunity to maybe go well in that each way market in the handicap. I know what you guys are against me on that, but listen, let's just go with it. My other team in that is Aston Villa. I think they're a side who are charging forward now. Obviously, they've lost some players, but again, receiving this big head start of 28 points, I think they're a good enough side to maybe come into 6th place. And I think that might be good enough, guys, to top the handicap. But they're my two picks. Fire away and take your pot shots.
Absolutely. Welcome. No one can accuse you of being a chicken, that's for sure. Fucking Blackburn. But anyway, excuse me. But Nick, the conversations we've had in the office, the plentiful conversations we've had in the office about Blackburn, indicate to me that you will not agree with Ross here with his opinion of Blackburn in the handicap market. Am I right?
I can't be too harsh on Russ. I like him. He's such a nice guy. But the trouble is that I just don't agree with this. I've got no faith in the Blackburn owners. I've got no faith in Steve Keane. The guy's an amateur really in the absolute top league, so I don't see him being able to be competitive. I think they've got to get rid of him to stand any chance. I really do. They've lost one of their key players. There could be another one in the shape of Chris Stammer to follow. And I just don't see it. I'm sorry, Russ. My picks in this one, I can understand City and Sunderland being at the top of the market. Obviously, Sunderland brought in a lot of players. City, I think they'll be within 6 points of Man United, certainly. So I think they'll finish above them in the handicap market. But my pick, actually, one of the longest prices here, Stoke at 18 to 1. They're consistently finishing in mid-table. I think Tony Pulis, it's not fashionable, but he's got a formula and it works, and he always buys players to fit the formula. He's signed a couple more defenders. He's got Woodgate. I think they're in talks with Upson. Established Premier League players, albeit with their injury records. And I could see them. They've got a plus 34 head start, and I could see them topping this market at a big price.
You remind me of Bolton at sort of the turn of the century. Allardyce gradually improving every year. They ended up in the UEFA Cup, I remember, didn't they?
Absolutely.
Let's talk about relegation though. Swansea head this market 8 to 15, Norwich 3 to 5, QPR 6 to 4, then 15 to 8. Bar. This was an enthralling race last year, if you recall. It went to the last game of the season. When we tipped up West Ham at 18 to 1 in the Sportingbet podcast to finish bottom in that particular market. Russell, can you pick a value bet in this really tricky market?
I can, and I'm going to pick Newcastle United. I think they're a side that I tipped up on many occasions on podcasts, videos that we did last year to perform badly. They certainly outperformed what I thought they would deliver. But I think they've got a manager in Alan Pardew who's going to be vulnerable. I think people will generally be against Newcastle. I just don't see an enormous amount to be optimistic about. Clearly the sides who've come up are vulnerable, there's no doubt about that, but I think they might have enough about them to maybe mount some sort of survival challenge. I think Newcastle are around about the 10 to 1 mark at the moment. I think they're a very, very good value indeed.
Yeah. 10-1 to finish bottom, I believe. 92
to finish to be relegated to 10 to finish bottom. But I think they're good value. I think there are other teams in there I don't like at the moment. The likes of Everton, who are going to be a big price. I think they're 22 to 1. I think to go down. But they're the kind of teams that I look at to be quite vulnerable at the moment. But Newcastle for me, the value pick 92.
Yeah, Nick, who's going down at a fancy price?
Oh, well, I already talked about Blackburn. 3 to 1 for me is a great price to see them go down, unless they make some changes quickly. And I don't believe they've got the ownership to be decisive and really have an understanding of the league. For me, the other picks are Wigan at 15 to 8. They've lost their best player again in Zogbia. They always seem to be there or thereabouts. I think Martinez could be poached at any time. If a big club decides to make a change and go for him, he nearly went to Villa obviously in the summer. I think if a bigger club than that comes in, then we could definitely see him on his way, and Wigan departing from the Premier League.
Surely no. Who knows? Lads, we've talked about the key markets. I'm going to pin you down now to your best bet the Premier League markets as we approach the start in a few days' time. Russ, the ones you mentioned, which one are you most confident
about? A couple of things I think in the top Premier League goal scorer, I do like Darren Bent. I think Villa have a good year, but however, I'm not going to sit on the fence here. I think it's important that we have a proper opinion, guys. I'm tipping up Manchester City to win the Premier League 7-2. I think they're fantastic value. I really do think that any side that finishes even a point ahead of them will be the champions. For me, they're equipped to make a real plunge at this, but I've got to say, Chris, I'm really looking forward to the season. I think we're equipped at Sportingbet to really come up with some very interesting football markets. We're perfectly placed to deliver what the punters want. I'm really looking forward to it.
Excellent. 72 Man City to win the league for Russ. What's your best bet of the campaign?
Well, I'm still looking at Blackburn at 3 to 1. Sorry, Russ, it has to be said. I've made my case already for them, and I just don't think they're equipped to deal with it this year.
It's Blackburn to go down for Nick. It's Man City to win the league for Russ. Whether you agree or disagree, make sure you bet here at Sportingbet. All the best bets. We're in play in a host of matches. It's the place to be. Why don't you try and take some money off us this season?